Welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8, and this is the unrehearsed creepypastas. I think 46. I think. I'm in the middle of a half-eaten taco from Taco Bell right now. I type in creepypasta.com on my phone. Go onto the site eventually. Eventually this will load. What do you mean you have to contact Google? What do you mean contacting Google? Google, why are you fighting me on this? I'm gonna drink some water out of this jug of water. Okay, let's just exit out and everything. Your results are ready, but I just closed everything. Let's click this. Okay. Back on to creepypasta.com. Okay. There is a new story. It's called The Latest Stories of creepypasta.com. At the Salmon Cowboy, a found letter by CR Dobson. Obviously posted today, May 31st, 2021. Would be kind of nice if they gave me an actual hour and minute it was posted. And more ads pop up. Okay. Yeah, I would like actually if it posted a time. No votes yet. Well, if anything's actually an indication of how new something is the fact that there is not a single vote. Which I'm pretty sure I can't vote. Because I'm pretty sure you have to have you probably have to be a member or something of the site to vote. I don't think you can vote otherwise. And besides, it'd be kind of odd if I tried to vote and I hadn't even read the story yet. Anyway, so this is a brand new story. Doesn't even have a single vote yet. So it's probably only minutes old. It's called At the Salmon Cowboy, a found letter by CR Dobson. Estimated reading time, 5 minutes. I fear that by the time you are reading this, it will be too late. Forgive me, Vanessa. I am so sorry. As you are reading this, your fiancé is lost, caught in an act of obsessive compulsion that I, too, have fallen into. There was no malice in my intention. To take him away was not my intention. We were only going to try it once. My hands are shaking as I type. Okay. I'll quick read more. Staying calm, maintaining some semblance of composure is only possible because I know that when I fulfill this promise, I will be able to join your intended and writhe in ecstasy before too long, joining him with him in a greater pleasure addicts of this sort strive to achieve. I promised him I'd explain. He cannot. He is busy. Okay. We had gone to Canada to fish for running salmon. You knew this. Your betrothed and I had no further intentions. After several hours of fruitless fishing, we left the river disappointed. We drove into town to have a beer, perhaps two. We parked in front of a bar called the Salmon Cowboy and exited the vehicle. The whole town smelled like fish. Our disappointment, therefore, was compounded. Where did the fish come from? Who was catching them? Can you believe that our disappointment was further compounded when we entered the bar and found that it was not a bar? There was no beer. There were only fish piled high upon the floor, some of them still flopping, others, those closest to the bottom, in various states of decomposition. Well, this isn't hygienic at all. And while I don't drink beer, I would like a root beer, but a Barks root beer. That'd be nice. There was no evidence of fishmonger or any type of clerk for that matter. The room was vast and dark, but for a single circle of light emanating from a bulb directly above the fish pile. We did not want to buy fish. We wanted to catch them. I wanted to see you smile, Vanessa, when Thad? Okay? Your intended presented you evidence of his love in form of a beautiful Chinook. Who offers fish as a symbol of love? Thad is moaning, Vanessa. This is context for a letter, and that's saying something from me, with my odd sentence structure. I am sorry. He is screaming that it is better than sex, and he will never stop. Okay? What? I am excited by the length of our salmon rope? And then it goes hyphen, I will get to... Yeah, I hope you do! I don't know... Did you... How do you... What? How do you make salmon into a rope? What? First, I have to tell you that you would not have believed how angry we were that there was no beer at the Salmon Cowboy. That there was only a large pile of fish. We were going to leave, but we heard this moaning toward the back of the Salmon Cowboy. Perhaps we thought if we followed the sound of the moaning, we would find someone who could tell us where we could find some beer. Vanessa, I hope you are okay. I know how much you adore Thad. I regret that we found the man at the Salmon Cowboy. I wish we would have left instead of asking him what he was doing. Were I able to turn back time, I would go back in time and tell Thad and I not to enter the Salmon Cowboy. Also, I would have told us that there would be beer elsewhere. It is Canada, after all. Well, I think that would be true of everywhere. There's something to drink no matter... Like, I'm pretty sure there's going to be beer and soda no matter where you go, unless, it's a life and death situation. But I cannot go back in time, Vanessa. Okay. So it remains that we follow How are you able to write this letter? Who is mailing this? The moaning back of the Salmon Cowboy. The moaning stopped as we neared. The sound of sniffing replaced the moans. We could see nobody until we were very close. We found there several men and women sitting cross-legged with their backs against the wall. Nearly all of them held pink fillets of fish against their noses, their heads nodding, their eyes rolled back. Are you sniffing fish? I don't think that's a drug. Do you know how strange this was? No, you could not know, Vanessa. You also could not know how strange it was when from somewhere behind us we heard, "Come to this fish pile and rip from the fish a slab of meat. Experiment with the firmness and consistency. Each of us has our own particular preference." We turned around, and you would not believe what we saw, Vanessa, there standing in the light of the fish pile. Sounds gross. Was a man. It had to have been the moaner. Wow, does that say it on his name tag? He must have flanked us in the dark. I mean, how could he? You had the light of the salmon light. That'd be the worst Green Lantern ring ever. It's like, oh, what's this Green Lantern? It's the power of fish. Now I'm just imagining Aquaman with a power ring. It's no matter what color power ring you give him, it's... I wonder, would Ryan Reynolds and Jason Momoa do a movie about that? The Green Lanterns and Aquaman? I feel like I would not be interested for the sake of the superheroes so much as the just the personality chemistry between Jason Momoa and Ryan Reynolds. Like, I imagine they would have good comedy with each other. Okay. Back to this. Do you know what hung from inside his nostrils and dropped out of his mouth? No, Vanessa. You could not know that it was a long pink rope strung through his nostril and down through his nasal cavity, then out of his mouth. Each end reached nearly to the floor. I wish you knew how beautiful his salmon rope was. What? Vanessa, such a glistening wonder. Morning strands of spider silk. What diligence and discipline. How he snorted the salmon fillet, long enough so that it stretched into his skull and back out his mouth, I do not know. The roper's voice was nasal but clear. It is obvious that you admire my salmon rope. I feel like this is euphemism. I feel like it's metaphor. Stay and perhaps you can create one like mine. He took each end of the rope in his hands, craned his neck toward the ceiling, He pulled the rope away from his nose with his left hand, thereby lifting his right. He then pulled the rope out of his mouth with his right hand until his fist was against his nose. The roper again moaned in ecstasy, gurgled with pleasure as he drew the salmon rope back and forth through his nostril and mouth. He fell to his knees, collapsed backward in the fish pile, and began to jerk the rope fast and hard. I'm pretty sure, this is, analogy for something. I'm pretty sure this is meant as an analogy. I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going. Let me try, Thad screamed, his hand already reaching down his pants. Okay, I guess we're just dropping all facsimile of, what we're representing and just going straight for it. Really? Even I'm put off a little bit by how lewd this is. I was scared. With such honesty, such shame, I must let you know that it was not the roper's display or Thad's enthusiasm that frightened me, but the prospect of Thad getting to the rope before I could. What the fuck? Really? This is... What? Robbing all the pleasure before I had my go at it. The roper seemed to read my mind. He rose to his feet and said, "You both come here. We can share." Why do I feel like this should be like a missed episode of Ren and Stimpy? So Thad and I approached the roper, one of us on each side of him. The roper placed the nose side of the rope into my hand, and I placed the mouth side of the rope into the hand of Thad. Now, men, take the rope into yourselves and link us. I do not think I could tell you why, Vanessa, but we listened to the roper. I brought the rope to my nostril and sucked in with a great deal of force. The rope drove up my nose and through my nasal cavity. I gagged as it tickled the back of my throat, and the end had entered my nose and ejected from my mouth. The roper smiled. I smiled too when I saw Thad had done the same as I with his end of the salmon rope. Almost instantly, Thad and I were swooning. Oh, Vanessa, do you know that I forgot about sex when the roper took ends of his rope from Thad and me and began to pull them slowly through my skull, Thad's skull and his own? What I just want to know is, what inspired the writer of this, who I can't even remember at the moment? What? Vanessa, we are still connected as such, and I fear that we shall never disconnect. We are nourished by the slight shavings of salmon that fall into our stomachs. Our thirsts are quenched by the saliva that runs along the rope. As the rope lengthens, people leave their place against the wall and join us. Okay. What? Thad asked me to tell you this. He asked that I invite you, but I cannot invite you. We waste away here in fishy, decadent bliss. Do not come to us. No longer am I able to write. Another has joined us, and we are pulling the rope again. I write this with love from Thaddeus, and warnings from me, your dear friend, Gelatin A. Smith. Credit CR Dobson. What did I read? What did I read? What the fuck was this? Who mailed the letter? How are you explaining this to the postman? He's just gonna come in and be like, "Oh, just let me pick up this envelope and leave. Bye." What the fuck?